I did decide to go shirtless because it is about punk music. So
I like it. I went with a button up for the same reason.
you went the exact opposite direction, and you got one of these guys going. What's that guy?
It's called a front rat tail, you know, a fronty, if you will.
A fronty. Now that is fun. I like that a lot. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 34 of the Elephant Wire podcast, show we break down song lyrics and don't play you a damn second of the song because major labels are thieving babies that would sue us up the ass. Which is, yeah, it's kind of their go-to move. This week's episode, we're going to be hanging out with Etienne out in San Diego, California. More exclusively,
Hello.
Chula Vista, California. He's a border boy down there. Is that what you guys call yourselves?
I call myself that. I don't know what anyone else does.
Hello, my name is Etienne. I am a border boy.
I consider myself a bit of a border boy, but
we're going to be talking some punk rock lyrics. Today's episode is aptly named "I Ain't No Goddamn Son of a Bitch." That is the name of the episode today. Well, right on. Yeah, it's funny. The reason. So last time we had Etienne on here, we had him on for Open Mike Eagle, doing some best of on that one. Etienne's going to kind of be our best of guy. We're going to kind of delve into either genres or artists or whatever it may be, and just shoot the shit about what they did best. And this episode, I think we actually talked about it last time you were on here. That next time you came on, we were going to do the history of punk music.
I think so. I think that's where the idea came about, right?
Yeah, so it's pretty much been established since that time. Because when we first started working together in California, I remember you showing me the movie SLC Punk while we were working one day, working so hard, if I may add. Well, you showed me the movie SLC Punk, and you were like, "When I was in middle school, this is what I wanted my life to be." And I was like, "Okay." We're learning a lot about Etienne right now. This is cool. So I figure let's just start the episode off. If you could just give us a synopsis for those of you who've never seen the film SLC Punk, just give us like that Cliff Notes, that IMDb brief overview. What is SLC Punk? What are we looking at here?
So SLC Punk, it's a coming of age story. Basically, it's some couple of recent college grads and their sort of group of punk friends. Salt Lake City, 1985. They're trying to be the best anarchists they can in Salt Lake City. They're trying to let their college educations go to waste. They're trying to go to parties. They're trying to throw parties, go to concerts. And, all the while, fighting Nazis and rednecks and getting into scuffles with the cops, classic, the stuff we're still doing today,
To this day. Yeah. I love it. Well, I also loved when it got to the end of that movie, because the whole time it's like a breaking the fourth wall narration.
It is. But it has that kind of thing where it's like they break the fourth wall. They kind of clue you into what's going on, explain the background and all that stuff.
Yeah. Because whenever it gets all the way to the end of the movie, with as little spoilers as possible, like he's literally like, "Yeah, I decided to sell out."
Yeah.
And I remember when we were watching at work, it gets to that, and I look over at you, and you're like, like that was the culmination. Like, yeah, we're all gonna sell out. And I was like, wow, I saw that go in a way different direction, man.
Yeah, we're all posers at the end of the day, man.
We really are, man. Yeah, we absolutely are. This isn't even my body. I photoshopped this. Yeah, I don't have any tattoos. I'm posing right now.
I can tell, man. They look a little off.
Yeah. Well, they're mirrored, so I didn't know how it'd work out.
That's fine.
Fine. I just tried to find like a 12-year-old Henry Rollins. I just Google imaged that, and this is the best that I could do. So
it's almost believable.
Why, thank you. It took me about 10 minutes to Photoshop it. Oh man. Well, right on, dude. Go ahead.
And a synopsis, or do you want to go into any more detail?
Well, I mean, it's a really good movie. And I think honestly, it kind of sums up, because one of the things we're going to get into is, yes, punk music more or less originated in the US.
Mm-hmm.
However, punk music did not become what it ended up becoming through the 70s and early 80s without the British punk scene.
Right. Oh yeah. Totally.
And I thought one of the funniest scenes in that movie was these kids in Salt Lake City. They invite a band from England to come play at their local venue. And halfway through the show, that band from England's like, they're like, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. Like, you guys are way too heavy.
They're too bleeding violent over there in Salt Lake City.
Too violent. Yeah. And so I like watching the movie before I'd really done my research and like learning the history of punk music. Like, I just thought that was like a funny scene. But then after like learning the history, I was like, oh my God, like that actually, like there's a whole lot more to read into there, that like so much of like, like when you talk about Brit pop versus pop, or you talk about what, I don't know, say, what big, huge bands were doing in the US in the early 70s versus what was happening over in not just England and Europe in general. The way everything is so much bigger in the music scene there. Where here, it like we're all about our niche markets. We love our niche markets. We love all of our offshoot genres. And punk music, holy fuck. So I want to talk about offshoot genres and like subgenres and all that shit. It's crazy. Like once we start getting into this, because like one of the first factoids I'll bring up, 1971, in an issue of Rolling Stone, this guy by the name of Greg Shaw was the first music critic to use the term punk. As far as talking about, or not just punk, because punks were defining the people within them. And for a really long time, punk rock wasn't actually a genre. It was just rock that punks listened to. Right. There was like a differentiation between the two. So yeah, it was 1971. He was talking about a song by the Guess Who, and he said, "Good, not too imaginative, punk rock and roll." Which is really funny, because I really want to follow it up with this very next quote. This is from the Ramones drummer, Tommy Ramone. He says, in its initial form, a lot of the 1960s stuff was really innovative and exciting. And he's just talking about rock and roll in general. He's talking about Zeppelin, all those cats, like Pink Floyd. And he said stuff was an innovative and exciting. Unfortunately, what happens is that people who could not hold a candle to the likes of Hendrix start noodling away. And that was kind of what one of the documentaries I was watching on punk music, getting ready for this episode, they were talking about how music had become really disconnected from the budding musician in the 70s. Right. Because you had a very disco and very like that whole market, like ABBA and the Bee Gees. You had that side of music that just a standard musician coming in, it's really difficult to make that kind of music without a significant, right, without a bunch of production value. And then also just being an incredibly talented singer or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, you have Zeppelin, you have Floyd, you have all these bands like this, like the metal market, where just a budding musician coming up, once again, they can't do what Bonham's doing on the drums. They can't do what Neil Peart's doing on the drums. They can't even touch what these guys are doing. And so to just kind of be a garage band at that time was tough. And yes, garage rock was a genre, but it was nowhere near, like, they weren't getting radio play. Like, if that makes sense. So yeah, so back to this quote by Tommy Ramone. He said a lot of people like Hendrix start noodling away. Soon you had endless solos that went nowhere. By 1973, I knew what we needed was some pure, stripped down, no bullshit rock and roll. And I think that's honestly what punk rock actually like why it latched on, because all of these kids that, well, I mean, that's the very next quote I have is from a guy named John Hallstrom. He was the founding editor of Punk magazine. And he said punk was rock and roll by people who didn't have very many skills as musicians, but still felt they needed to express themselves through music.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way to describe it, right?
Yeah, because whenever you start looking at like some of those early, a lot of those early punk rock bands, like this season, whenever Dirty Hippie Kyle was on an episode, we were talking about the Ramones, and Kyle made a very bold statement, but he wasn't wrong. And when he said the Ramones were not very good songwriters, they weren't. They really I mean, they do like 7 chords, but they did it better than anyone else did. So, and that's the thing. Like a lot of punk rock, it stemmed from a lot of that 60s, guys like stabbing their guitar amps to make them distorted. Like the guitar pedal technology wasn't even a thing. Like, so like guys doing that, or even watching interviews with Jack White and Dave Grohl, and guys talking about like they all trace their roots back to these same. Iggy Pop would be another one that we could throw in there. They all are tracing their roots back to the same people, and it was these musicians coming out of the 60s that like they were sick of the surf rock, and they were sick of the solos and these big, production. They just wanted how loud can it be? Yeah, I think it's really funny how this genre started as just like a collective of people. They were termed punks, and this was just the bands that they listened to.
Yeah.
Because you even go into like early venues that were huge, and like one of the biggest ones would be CBGB's in New York. And at one time I knew what that stood for. It was like country blues.
Country bluegrass. No. CBG, yes. Country bluegrass.
Something.
And some other stuff.
Yeah. and probably blues was the last one or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
To where you fast forward to like 76, 78, like that place is trashed. Like the walls are completely covered with stickers and spray paint and vomit and cigarettes, and because they started like television was one of the big bands coming through there. Patti Smith was one of the people coming through there. The Ramones played their first show there. Like, all these bands coming through there. Joan Jett, I think, was there the last night that the place was open or something like that. Like the amount of history that came through that. It's a bagel shop now, by the way.
Oh, no way.
But not just a bagel shop. It's one of those like fucking gluten-free bagels places or something. I'm sure the place there's no way that place made it through COVID. Not a chance in hell. So it's probably nothing now, like as we stand. But yeah, I love that. Like it was punk music basically just came from like, here's a bunch of outcast people. Here's the bands they listen to. Give them a venue and leave them alone. Just let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And the way it just went from there, and Etienne, you being an artist, and quotes like this that like rock and roll for people who didn't have very many skills as musicians, like that's something that as an outsider like looking in, I could be like, oh, so like people do abstract art. I don't know if there is a direct correlation or not correlation, like a direct like carryover equality, but
I mean, abstract art usually like it comes from like you're trying to unlearn everything you learned in art school. But I would say punk rock is more like more like graffiti art, more along the lines of outsider art, people that have never been to any art school, but they have an urge to make to make an image, those kinds of people. Like even though Jean-Michel Basquiat, he did take art school, but that sort of thing, an outsider out of the I don't know this if this is the social norms, but outside of the greater art community, you're just making what what you have to make, sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and a lot of times I feel like that's, genres like punk rock, which then stemmed into, like post-punk and hardcore, and a lot of those genres that got created out of it. I mean, even carrying it all the way into the early 2000s with Blink-182, and like even further past that into like the mid 2000s when you have like pop punk, like the Vans Warped Tour. I think a lot of times what ends up happening, exactly like you said, it's just like this innate desire that there's not a whole lot you can do about it, and you might not even be talented enough to do it, but you're gonna do it. I mean, one of the funniest stories I heard researching this episode, which before I get into that story, I'm going to put my foot down right now and say Sex Pistols is the greatest band name of all time.
It is a very good band name.
It's so good. Like I've never heard another band name that, having no idea who the Sex Pistols are, like take all that away, having no idea what the punk rock scene is, like coming into it and just seeing the band name on paper, Sex Pistols. Just like, holy shit. Like, there's no way in hell these kids' parents let them listen to that. And you don't even know what it is. Like, it could be like it could be a sex ed band like the Wiggles that does it like an old Western style. You know what I
mean? Are the Wiggles a sex ed band?
Yeah, if like the Wiggles were like cowboys that like did sex ed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was learning something new about the Wiggles today.
No. Which I'm sure the Wiggles like are big fans of the Sex Pistols. Those guys are really talented musicians. Like, yeah. But yeah, one of the funniest stories I heard, going back to my original point, was when the Sex Pistols were getting their start, they found Johnny Rotten. Holy shit, did I just fuck that up? No, Johnny Rotten. Yeah, the lead singer of the Sex Pistols. Yeah. They found him and they were like, you're perfect for what we're going for. Can you sing? And he's like, I don't know. And so they start playing and he sings, and they stopped halfway through the song because they were laughing so hard. He was such a terrible, terrible fucking singer. But then they were like, yeah, but he's perfect though. He's like ugly and like scrawny and like kind of shaped like an alien. Like, whatever. You're in. You're the guy. Like, and I also, in the research I was doing, I found that one of the most influential people in the punk rock scene that had nothing to do with the music in general was David Bowie. Right. A lot of punk rock musicians looked at Ziggy Stardust as kind of this figurehead of just like how weird like you can get, and nobody fucking cares. Like, just get as weird as you want. And that's why you have people like Johnny Rotten. You have people like Iggy Pop rolling around on stage half naked and like throwing things. You have like, and then you fast forward a little further, you have like the Talking Heads and Devo being weird as shit, but just people eating it up, loving every second of it.
Oh yeah.
So I think the history of punk rock is one of the more, look, when you start looking into like the history of metal, you're like, all right, here's Zeppelin and here is Black Sabbath. And then everything went from there. To where when you start looking at the history of punk rock, like, yeah, we can talk about like, the Ramones' first show. We can talk about Patti Smith and I forget what the name of the album was, but like that an album that she released is kind of like the quintessential original punk rock album. We can look at everything that was going on in England versus everything that was going on in the US. I love that there is no like way to quantify where it started, how it started. It's just like, here's all the people that were kind of doing it, but not all the time. Like,
like I forget the term is, but it's like how all over the world people created bows and arrows around the same time. You know, the world was at a place where punk rock was going to happen, and it kind of all happened. You know, came out of the ooze all over the place. You know, and
Right.
it was just like the perfect timing for it, I guess, in like the late 60s, early 70s. You know.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with that quote by Tommy Ramone, where people were just sick of, not sick of it, but a good majority of music fans were just tired of it being so inaccessible as
Right.
far as, you know, like,
yeah, you can idolize Jimi Hendrix and all that stuff, but you don't really see yourself in them, or ABBA. You know, that's not me. I don't look that great. I don't play that great.
right.
But,
right. Yeah. And that, you know, and there will always be people that do gravitate that way. Cause there's, you know, we could start getting into all those offshoot genres of punk, and there's the people that love punk rock, but they go more like the Fugazi way, which, like, that's, as far as punk rock's concerned, that's about as inaccessible as it gets. Just like, talk about like the noodling, just like all the way down the, yeah, like, you know, 6 chords, you can play half the Ramones album, like, you know.
And going back to the Sex Pistols, I feel like Sid Vicious never knew how to play an instrument, like, the whole time. You know, and he was
Sid Vicious,
one of the most influential bands of all time. You know,
I did fuck it up. I got up in my head. It was Sid Vicious. That's the lead singer of the Sex Pistols.
No, Johnny Rotten is the lead singer, but
Sid no, okay, Sid Vicious, yeah. No, you're right. God, this is what
their instruments. So it's fine. You could just interchange their names, you know.
Well, yeah. Once again, I mean, they were both just like these ugly little weirdos shaped like aliens that, like, they just did crazy things and, like, swore on television. And I, like, one of the coolest things that a band has ever done is they, like, the Sex Pistols rented a boat and played "God Save the Queen" underneath, like, what is it, like the Tower Bridge or whatever, and, like, so fucking awesome, so awesome. What a genre. Too much fun, man. Too much fun. Well, I tell you what, let's start diving into some lyrics here, bud.
All right.
I got quite a few quotes from all over the place, a whole bunch of different ones. Whether they mean anything or not, they're just some fantastic punk rock quotes. The first one I got is by Joan Jett, from her song "Bad Reputation." And the quote is, "I don't give a damn about my reputation. You're living in the past. It's a new generation. A girl can do what she wants to do, and that's what I'm going to do." Fucking love that. Like, a little piece of me, like, how old was Ruth Bader Ginsburg when this was happening?
No idea. 40? I don't know.
Let's just pretend for a moment that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, studying for law school, was sitting there listening to "Bad Reputation" by Joan Jett, just being like, hell yeah, just taking notes. And, like, for some, I don't know why her name came to mind at first, but yeah, like, Joan Jett is because I'm sure there are people out there that would say Blondie would be kind of the matriarch of punk rock.
I think people say that, yeah.
So and I'm not even honestly going to argue that. Patti Smith, Blondie. I would say then that Joan Jett would be like the drunk aunt of, like, if Blondie and Patti Smith are, like, vying for matriarch of punk rock, like, Joan Jett's over here just getting smashed and just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I hate family reunions. Yeah. All right. Who do we got next? We have The Clash.
Okay. Classic.
We have The Clash here. This is for their song "I'm Not Down."
Yeah. It
says, "I've been beat up. I've been thrown out, but I'm not down. I'm not down. I've been shown up, but I'm grown up, and I'm not down. I'm not down." Now, this is another thing. We were talking a little bit ago about how musicians that weren't very talented picked punk rock because I think this is another amazing thing about punk rock lyrics. And, you know, hearing stories about the days of old of like the Ramones were very, very shrewd businessmen in the sense that they understood that if they damn near forced the audience to participate in their songs, that people would leave the show having that much more fun.
Right.
So like, you know, Blitzkrieg Pop, like skating rinks, baseball stadiums, fucking Walmart. Everybody's playing that song. And you can't, like, you're walking down the aisle of a Walgreens and that song comes on. You can't help but be like under your breath, like, hey, oh, let's go. Like the forced call and response. Like it's innate.
Right.
It's like hearing the YMCA and not instantly like doing the whole thing. It's difficult.
You have to do it.
So this is one of those areas where like the Clash doing that same thing. Like when you make your lyrics that accessible as well, because let's think about it too. The kids that are in the pit mixing it up, you can't be trying to remember verse upon verse. Like
right.
You just need to be able to just scream, I'm not down. I'm not down. and it, you know, in like the short term, like little, like just snippet of it, no context. It doesn't sound lame, but it just sounds really like, I don't know if innocent is even the right word, but for exactly what it was. I mean, when you talk about, you know, just like the punks all in one room rallying the troops. I mean, what's better than everybody shouting, I'm not down over and over and over, man? It's going to rally the troops for sure. Oh, yeah. Also, the Clash is another band that, you know, back in those early days, I mean, they were damn near terrifying. Like, you know, what was it? There was a tour of the Ramones, the Clash, and the Sex Pistols. And they were supposed to do a tour of, it was like a European tour. They were going to hit like 22 cities. They only ended up playing like 4 shows because they all got canceled. Like, you know, moms and churches and Tipper Gore like standing outside, like, stay out of our good Christian town. Yeah, so fucking awesome, dude. I love it. All right, next we got Black Flag.
Oh, here we go.
There we go. This is from the song Rise Above, which, talk about being on brand. Same thing we were just talking about. We are born with a chance. Rise above. We're gonna rise above. I am gonna have a chance. Rise above. We're gonna rise above. That's another one. I hear that song playing literally anywhere I am. I can't help but sing along to that one.
It's a beautiful thing about these types of songs. It's very democratic and it's ease of access, and it just riles you up real good, yeah.
It does. I mean, because like there's something to be said about music in general that creates a feeling. And I think one thing that, you know, back in those early days of early punk rock, you know, take a song like that. Like, imagine your kid just turned 15 and you hear him in his room and he's yelling, rise above, I'm gonna rise above. And he's just in there doing his thing. And you walk in as a parent, like 3 months ago, your child was singing Buddy Holly. You know what I mean? Or like maybe he was still listening to the records you gave him of like Elvis or whatever it was. And all of a sudden, now he's singing this. How could that not be terrifying for a parent at that time? Because you know the next thing that's going to happen, he's going to dye his hair pink or chop it all off. He's begging for a pair of Doc Martens. Like on one side of the coin, I do kind of get it. I kind of get why parents were so fucking terrified and why communities were so terrified of punk rock. Is because it legitimately, like, it brought kids they came together. Because the feeling that this kind of music was culminating. They couldn't help but just all band together. Because it was like, I got a couple more here, but when back in your days of desiring to be a punk yourself, I mean, who were the bands that you were gravitating toward?
we were into, it's gonna be like a long list, but
That's fine.
we kind of started off with like our introduction to stuff that wasn't as mainstream was uh sort of like Weezer and Offspring and that kind of stuff, and then we quickly jumped off a cliff and we're like Sex Pistols, the Misfits, Anti-Flag, uh, the Ramones, TSOL, just like, and then more of like the Bouncing Souls and more of the hardcore stuff, Whoa, that kind of thing. And it was kind of all over the place. We're always trying to find the next hardest thing, you know, the least poserish, the most authentic, you know, version of the music that we loved, you know,
the fastest,
you know, if you had a song that was less than a minute long, that was like, you're doing a pretty good job, you know.
Well, I kind of said it a little bit ago as far as the movie Scott Pilgrim. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in that movie is when they go to the Battle of the Bands and that one band gets up there and they're like, this song is called So Sad. And they just go, so sad. Thank you. It's like a court. And then Scott Pilgrim's on the side. He's like, damn, these guys are really good. Oh, man. Oh, man. Well, I mean, so you said it. You said it right there. That like your entrance in was like the Offspring and bands like that. And like that's exactly where, I mean, like I started more in like the Blink 182, a little bit of the Offspring, not a whole lot. But that's kind of where I started. It was with like Sum 41, Blink 182, and then kind of trickled from there, you know, because the only way to know that those things exist, unless you have an older brother, like there's no good way to find that music without, like, you just get your small little entrance and then you're off, you know?
Yeah, right. And you find a song that's sort of a little bit you know, a little bit off on the radio, and then you go to the what were the like FYE and like the other record stores back in the day, you know, like
CD Baby or what was it? Yeah,
and then you go to like the punk section and you're like, okay, well, where's that Blink 182 song? Well, I can't find that, but here's you know, here's whatever, here's Rancid, here's Operation Ivy or whatever.
Yeah,
what's that? I like this, you know, this cover art is pretty much like this is how I feel on the inside as a 12-year-old, you know?
Yeah. I remember being like 12 or 13 and being at a Target or a Walmart, or I can't remember where I was. I was there with my family and I went over to the electronics section and I was thumbing through all the CDs, and I remember picking up the Offspring, and it was the album cover with the kid on the swing.
Oh yeah,
like the leg braces. And I just remember staring at it and being like, what is this? Like, I don't even know what this would sound like. This has got to be, and like, I knew my mom wouldn't buy it, so I considered stealing it. Like, I didn't have a good angle, like 15 people around. So it wasn't until a few years later when I actually just fucking bought it with my own money. Like, but I distinctly remember just standing there holding that CD and just being like, this has to be, like, this is what I want to listen to. And I don't even know what it is. Because the next quote I got here is from The Offspring. The kids aren't all right.
All right.
Jamie had a chance. Well, she really did. Instead, she dropped out and had a couple of kids. Mark still lives at home because he's got no job. He just plays guitar and smokes a lot of pot. Like, as you're going through that song, like, once again, kind of like SLC Punk, like the movie, like, you get to the end of that song and like none of it turns out. They're just talking about like burned out people, and then the song sort of ends. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about punk music, is that punk music is just fine with just telling like, yeah, the world's pretty fucked up.
Yes, it doesn't have to be optimistic, and I feel like sometimes that's more you can empathize with it more or sympathize with it more if it's honest, you know?
Right. Exactly.
You know, everything is shit, you know? I get it, you know?
Yeah, because I mean that's exactly what it is. Like, you're lied to your entire childhood, and you know, whether it's on purpose or whether it's just like that's just how growing up works, that you're pitched this version of how growing up will be and how exciting it is to become an adult, and then the second you realize you got to pay your own fucking bills and take care of your own teeth, all that goes out the window. And that's just the base level stuff. That's not even talking about shit that actually sucks. Like, but let's do another newer band. I got Sum 41 here, which if there was a song that actually got me into punk music, like if there was like, hey Jake, you like this, like here's this one, now you're off and running, go that way. And it was the song Fat Lip by Sum 41. And it had, I would say about 80% of it had to do with the song. A good solid 20% of it was the music video. It really was. And it was a crazy time in MTV era where like the video that came on before could be Nelly. Or, it could even be Shakira. And then the very next video would be Sum 41 Fat Lip. And then the very next video could be, I don't know, Kelly Rowland, or like someone that just got off American Idol.
Right.
It was such a crazy, I mean, even the radio at the time, like the pop radio was even that way. There were a couple bands that were kind of getting it, like The Offspring, Sum 41 were two of those. Obviously when Blink in the early 2000s, they were just like, they made the radio constantly.
Oh yeah. They were on every station practically.
Exactly. Yeah. Cause you'd hear them on the alternative station. They were on the college radio station. They were on all the pop stations. It was insane how accepted like punk was starting to become. And yes, it wasn't as terrifying and it wasn't as raw and it wasn't as, as maybe the early stuff was, but like, for all accounts and purposes, that's just how progression works. Like progression, just things change, things mold, things move and shape. And
there's more money involved, and also it's just becomes more streamlined. You can't have like a 70s punk band in 1998. It's just it's not gonna happen. Things have changed since then.
Right. But yeah, Sum 41, storming through the party like my name is El Nino. When I'm hanging out drinking in the back of an El Camino. As a kid was a skid. No one knew me by name. I trashed my own house party because nobody came. So awesome. And here, so one of the things that you said a minute ago is that, obviously like with progression, as there's more money, as the genre changed, as, when you watch like live versions of songs, especially when you're watching stuff from like the early 70s, like the Misfits or like even a lot of those live videos coming out of CBGB, it wasn't like those bands were putting out music videos.
Right.
That wasn't
barely even recorded,
Exactly. Well, how many punk bands, like they don't even have studio albums. They just have bootleg live albums.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's the best they got. And that plays a lot into the DIY culture of the punk music scene. But at the same time, let's take, for instance, Sum 41 Fat Lip, that music video. That there's not really a whole lot outside of just showing a bunch of people in the culture getting down. You know what I mean? Like There's like, yes, in Sum 41's video In Too Deep, like the diving competition is that video. There was a whole bunch of production value to that one, sure. But for Fat Lip, I mean, that, like I said, a good 20% of the reason I ended up in punk music in general was because of that music video, because it was showing the guy in the parking lot flipping off the cops and like spreading his butt cheeks at him, and the girl getting her head shaved, and the two kids colliding on skateboards on a vert ramp, and a guy eating a cigarette, I think, was in part of it. Like just all that shit. Like there wasn't really the production of the music video. It was just like, yeah, here's all the shit we do sometimes. And I fucking loved it. It was so awesome. And everyone's like giant cargo pants with zippers and
Oh yeah, man.
skateboard shoes that looked like they were moon boots. And
That's coming back though, man. Watch, in a couple of years we're gonna be wearing Osiris's again and globes.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I cannot wait because I've had a pair of Jenkos on back order for about 12 years now. Oh. So when they start making them again, I'm on a list. So
they turn the electricity back on, it's like
it'd be hilarious if I got an email in the next like week, like production has resumed on Jenko jeans. Like, oh my god, that'd be too much, man. Well, we got 2 left.
Okay.
Next one I got is Bikini Kill.
Oh,
and their song "I Like Fucking" is the name of the song. Now, this quote actually, of all the punk quotes that I was going through, I just Googled punk rock quotes.
Okay.
And for about a day and a half, I ended up on like the 6th page of a Google search, which like outside of looking for porn, I think that's the only time that's ever happened to me, like ending up on the 6th page of any web search. Like, so like I was diving in and I found this quote and I was like, this is one of the better punk rock quotes I've ever heard. I believe in the radical possibility of pleasure, babe. And there's this quote can be as meta as we would like it to be. It can be as base level, no context as we would like it to be, and everything in between. I believe in the radical possibilities of pleasure, babe. Because yes, the name of the song is "I Like Fucking," so obviously we don't have to go out on a very far limb to assume what he's talking about here. But at the same time, like just the radical possibilities of pleasure in general, like yeah. I think that has a lot to do with just the punk rock scene in general, of having no walls, no barriers. Now, this all being said with the whole straight edge community, but
yeah, but that's the thing though. You're free to be who you want to be and experience as much pleasure, as little pleasure as you want, or have your own definition of what pleasure is.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. Because I mean, like it, I would say even body modification and like maybe even like we could go as far as like BDSM culture, like kind of like this weird offshoot of kind of that punk rock culture. Now, I'm not saying that punk rock culture stemmed BDSM. Like people have always tied each other up and fucked each other. Like that's been going on since ever.
I think some of the early punk aesthetic came from the BDSM culture, like the belts and stuff like that, so there's like a cross pollination thing going on.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, that's why a quote like this, like we can be as meta as we'd like to here. We can dive as deep into this as far as like with the actual, like not necessarily the fallout of the two kind of intertwining, but at the same time, I mean, like that's kind of a good majority of what the punk rock culture is in general, is like, what's your definition of pleasure?
Right.
Like they go get some, like, oh, you like getting really, really fucked up and just like hearing music as loud as possible. Cool. Oh, you like being stone sober and hearing music as loud as possible. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
As long as the music is as loud as possible.
As long as it's as loud and fast as possible, then go get some. Yeah. All right, last one I got, and it just makes sense because the name of the episode, The Misfits, Where Eagles Dare. Let's test your threshold of pain. Let's see how long you last. That hat pin in your retina unbosoms all your past. With jaded eyes and features, you think they really care. Let's go where eagles dare. We'll go where eagles dare. I ain't no goddamn son of a bitch, and you better think about it, baby. Good Lord. The Misfits. Let me just say as well, I love that the Misfits are still getting some. Now, people who are actual Misfit fans and the whole, like, all of it, like, I get it. That, it's not the same Misfits it always was. It's not the same, band or product, whatever you want to call it. But I was getting ready to pull something up because I forgot how it was actually. So if I pull up Where Eagles Dare on Spotify right now, yeah, okay. So when you listen to the Misfits on Spotify, which there it is, when you pull up Where Eagles Dare on Spotify, it says Misfits, comma, Glenn Danzig.
Right.
So the guy that literally wrote the song, and actually there's a whole, but we could do an entire episode on just the Misfits catalog. We really could.
Yeah. And just their story, it's so complicated.
Exactly. And you know who does a really good job of it is No Dogs in Space.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Marcus Parks did a fantastic job. Him and his wife, Carolina, they did an incredible job breaking down just the Misfits story. And they bring this up that, like, because of all the fallout between Danzig and how much of a piece of shit he is, and because he's a piece of shit, and because Danzig's a piece of shit, and yeah, no, but at the same time, I mean, like, when people get a bunch of money, they change. I mean, it just fucking happens. Like, Zuckerberg used to live in a dorm, and now he bought half of Hawaii. Like, when you get a bunch of money, you turn into a piece of shit. That's just what fucking happens. Like, I get it. Very few people make it out of that and haven't done that. But at the same time, I mean, like, a band that this song specifically, the band went into the studio, recorded the album, the band left, Danzig came back, re-recorded all of their parts, and he's the singer. But to this day, on Spotify, it's not only the band, but he's also just himself is credited. That's it. Almost takes away from how punk rock it really was. It really does. Like, it honestly takes away from it, because
it's a bit petty, no?
It's incredibly petty. And, like, I get it. A lot of people are still into Danzig, and Danzig's still doing his thing, and that's fine. I wish him the best, but
sure,
it's a piece of shit. Guy's a piece of shit. What are you gonna do? Oh man, punk rock tunes, dude.
They're great.
It's a good time. One of my favorite punk rock stories ever is the first time I ever took my wife to a punk rock show, and it wasn't even that punk rock. It was more so. I would say on the bill, like 3 of the bands were pop punk, and 2 of the bands were like maybe nearing hardcore. Okay. But at the same time, it wasn't anything like, we didn't go see Anti-Flag or something. Like, we weren't seeing Fear. Like,
that would have been a good show.
Oh yeah. But for all accounts and purposes, it was a punk rock show. And definitely, as far as my wife was concerned, this is the first punk rock show she'd ever seen. And so I convinced her to go to the show with me. And we're rolling up to the venue, and we were going to go grab some dinner first. We parked near the venue, and we're walking past it to go get some dinner. And she sees all the kids standing in line. And she's like, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Like, Jake, I'm not going in there." It's like, no, it'll be great. It'll be great. It'll be great. We'll get a couple beers in you. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. And the whole time we're at dinner, she's just like, "I don't want to go in there." It's like, oh my God. Like, she just saw the kids in line. I was like, no, it'll be great. It'll be great. It'll be great. So we leave dinner. We get down to the venue. We walk in, and it was in between 2 bands. So just like everyone's hitting the merch booths. It was just fucking chaos in the front lobby of this venue, the Marquee Theater in Denver. Great fucking venue. So we walk back into the venue, like, after because I was like, oh, I'm gonna, like, there was a couple t-shirts I wanted to grab, and I was like, now's the time to get them. That way I got the rest of the show just back there. So I grabbed my shit, ran it out to the car, and come back inside, and she's standing exactly where I left her. Just doesn't want to be there at all. So we walk back into the venue, and like, up until this point, like, I completely understood. And in my head, I'm like, I'm never taking her to one of these shows again. Like, if she makes it the whole night, dope. Otherwise, I'll just stick her in an Uber. And I completely understand, like, if she doesn't want to be here. So we get back there, and second band is coming on. We missed the opener. Second band's coming on. They start their set and she's just staring at me because the kid's just getting some. She's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, okay, I'll get us a couple beers. So I go up to get, just a couple like the 24 ounce like silos of PBR because they were like $3.50 or whatever. Like, I mean, they don't have a date code on them. You have no idea how long they've been sitting there or where, but she comes back from the bathroom and I hand her a beer and she's like, okay, everyone here is really nice. And I was like, what? And she's like, everyone here is really nice. And she tells me this story that she went to go to the bathroom. On her way back there, someone commented on her jacket, was like, wow, that's a really cool jacket. She was like, thanks. And then when she gets back to the bathroom, there were two girls standing in line to go into the bathroom. And when she walked up, they were like, oh, we actually don't need to go very bad. If you want to just go, like, if you have to go, you can. We were just going to, just get one out before the next band went on. She was like, okay. So these two girls let her cut in line for the bathroom. And then while she was in there, like someone commented on her Vans or something like that. So by the time she gets back to me, she's been complimented and let cut in line. Like 3 or 4 things have happened. And then as that night went on, like little by little, she was like, I get it. I completely fucking get it. Like I understand why you love these shows and why you like hanging out with these kids, because she saw firsthand that like outside of the pit, everyone's loving each other and having a great time. You get your aggression out, go over in the pit and go mix it up with the kids and go get some and go have a good time. And then when you get out here, everybody's friends, everybody's buddies, and even in between bands, in between songs, like she saw how much love was actually in the room. Yeah. And that it literally was just like all these castaways, all these cast aside kids that just like, this was where they felt safe. This is where they felt at home. And it was a really cool night because she got to see that. And then I thought by that meant that I could take her to like the next like 8 punk shows I went to. And now she doesn't care again anymore. She's never going again. It also means I have to go see Miley or Justin Bieber with her at some point. So yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll go see Biebs. It'll probably be fun. Well, I tell you what, bud. It's now officially hit that point in the episode where we do our local band spotlight. And this week, we got a band called Hiding from Humans.
Ooh,
which is fun. So let's start getting through this here. Whenever I got in touch with them, I was like, hey, what are you guys all about? And they said, rising from the grounds of a burnt down arcade, Regina's high energy pop punk band Hiding from Humans was born in early 2019. Now, Regina, if I remember correctly, Regina is in Oregon.
Oh, I don't know. There's a Regina in Canada somewhere.
Oh, I hope they're from Canada. I mean, if they're not, that's fine. But oh, they are from Canada.
Yeah, right.
They are from Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
They are. I got ahead of myself. It's like a paragraph down. Yeah. Inspired by a wide variety of pop punk bands from the mid 90s and early 2000s, Hiding from Humans have put forth their best effort to date in creating a highly energized and upbeat catalog of songs. So mid 90s, early 2000s, I mean, we're talking Weezer, we're talking Jimmy Eat World, we're talking Blink, Yellow Card.
Yeah.
I'm sure some Sum 41 and Offspring have been in there. Like,
yes,
basically yeah. I can dig
all of this. I like it. Some of like H2O and some of the later hardcore bands were strong in the 90s.
I could see that. Maybe like some MXPX or that kind of shit.
Melancholy, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. Where did I leave off? Hiding from Humans debut a 6-song AP called Radio and was recorded at Blue Door Studio in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, and produced by Justin Bender. Justin was able to capture the raw energy of all 6 tracks and bring it out to the recording studio. Hiding from Humans Radio EP takes you down the emotional roller coaster with tracks about love, heartache, daily struggles, and endless hope, yet provides a safety net for the listener to fall back on. Fucking like it. Hiding from humans. Good kids coming out of Saskatchewan.
Love it.
I love when we have bands from Canada because Canada is just so cool.
It's Canada is a fun town. Very big town.
Very big town.
Very big.
Oh my God. Also, I mean, Saskatchewan, it's over on the east side of Canada, if I remember correctly. Is it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
My Canadian geography very well, but
because British Columbia is on the west side.
Yeah, British Columbia. Then we have Montreal and Quebec on that side.
Then you have Alaska. And then Bangor, Maine is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Duluth.
And then there's like Greenland and Iceland, but one of them is green and the other one's icy. It's all Canada.
And they're gonna keep lying to us. Sweden is actually like right above Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want you to know that.
No,
That's where all the birds that aren't in Sweden are fake. They're drones. Sweden is the only country that actually has real birds left that don't spy on you when you're naked.
Well, that's less fun, but yeah.
Well, it's because they're also fucking attractive. Like everyone would, like the entire world would just be like, have body dysmorphia.
Yeah, too much.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, this was a good time, bud. Thanks for jumping on here and talking punk rock tunes.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
In due fashion, like last time. I think next episode, what are you thinking? We did Best of Open Mike Eagle. We've now done Best of Pop Punk. Ooh, we could even do Best of Motown since you'll be so much closer. You get to go do some boots on the ground research.
Okay, sure.
Motown. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump from anywhere in Michigan.
I kind of like the sound of that. Yeah.
There we go. Well, brother, man, it was fantastic to have you on here. Love you to death, bud. Good to talk to you.
Love you too, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes. Do your thing.
All right. Peace, brother, man.